Hey, Madam Jusko from Proud Money. Chase has revealed the 5% cashback categories on the Chase Freedom Flex for the fourth quarter of 2025, and those categories are Chase Travel, and this is a stackable situation, which we will talk about in just a moment, and then you also have department stores, Old Navy, and PayPal. You're going to get that 5% or 5 points per dollar on up to $1,500 worth of purchases in those categories combined during the fourth quarter, which, if you don't know your quarters, starts October 1st and goes through December 31st of 2025. As always, remember that you have to activate in order to get that 5%/5x on those purchases, which means you have to go either on the Chase app or go online and say to Chase, yes, please activate those. I do want them, because if you don't activate, you're not going to get that 5%. All right, so let's take a step back and talk about those categories. Specifically, let's talk about the Chase Travel, because I told you that it is stackable. So what is going to happen is the Chase Freedom Flex already gives you 5% back or 5 points per dollar on travel that you book through the Chase Travel portal. In this case, because they are making Chase Travel one of the 5% rotating categories, you're actually going to get both of them. So they are going to stack on top of each other. Now, you might think that you are going to get 10% because 5% plus 5% equals 10, and that would make perfect sense. However, the way they actually work the points is that when they are stackable, you're going to get 9% or 9 points per dollar on those purchases. And the reason for that is you have 1 point as sort of a base that you are going to be using, whether you're talking about the regular 5% that you get or this rotating category 5%. It's always a base point plus bonus points. So that 1% base kind of fits under both of the sides of the equation here. So it's going to be 1%, and it's going to be plus 4 bonus points that you always get when you book travel with this card, and then it's going to be another 4 bonus points that you get when you are doing purchases via the rotating categories here. So it's actually 1 point plus 4 points plus 4 points equals 9 points, not 1 plus 1 plus 4 plus 4. I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and I don't really know why they do it that way, to be honest with you, but that is how it is going to come out. So 9% on Chase Travel. If you totally maxed out the $1,500 cap on Chase Travel only, that would mean that you would be getting 9%, which would be 13,500 points, or $135 if you just thought of those as a penny per point. Now, I should also mention here that if you are a Chase Freedom Flex card holder, you may have gotten an email in the last week or so where you could earn even some extra cash back, some extra points on your purchases with this card through November. And the offer that they have been putting out there, assuming that you got it, is after you spend $1,000 on the Chase Freedom Flex from now through the end of November, your next $2,500 worth of purchases would all get an extra 0.5% in terms of the reward you receive. Whether that's 1% or it's 5%, you would get an extra 0.5% on those. And then if you hit $4,000 in card spending between now and the end of November, after that $4,000, then you would get 1% on any further spending up to $2,500 of further spending. So it's kind of weird. You have to spend $1,000 to even get that 0.5% for further spending, and then you have to hit $4,000 before you get that 1% on further spending after that. But at least it's a little something extra. When I look at it, I think, if I wanted to hit any of those extra rewards, maybe I'm going to try and hit that 0.5%, but I'm probably not going to put $4,000 worth of purchases on the Freedom Flex to try and get 1% even later with more spending. Now, when these Chase 5% categories are revealed, we always look at the Discover It card as well to see what its 5% categories are for that same period, to see if there is any overlap, because many people carry both of these cards. When we look at the Discover It for the fourth quarter, the 5% categories there are Amazon.com and drugstores, so no overlap. All right, how do we feel about those 5% categories for the fourth quarter? Overall, I think they are pretty good. Chase is giving you a further incentive here with the Chase Travel category to actually book your travel through Chase. Oftentimes, people don't necessarily like to use these portals, and especially wouldn't be the first place that you would go to book your travel oftentimes. But when you have this sort of motivation where you could get yourself 9% in rewards, when we stack those two things together, well, then obviously it gives you a little more motivation situation to use that. So kind of a win-win. You get more and Chase gets more people trying out Chase Travel as a way to book their travel. All the other stuff, good as well. PayPal, obviously, getting 5% on your online purchases that you run through PayPal when you have this card as your funding source. That is a good thing. And then, of course, you have the in-person brick and mortar department stores as well as Old Navy that potentially are something that would be attractive as well. The Old Navy one obviously is a little strange since it's just one retail chain in particular. I have to assume that Old Navy makes some kind of deal here with Chase where they essentially eat that 5% or they pay that 5% or 5 points per dollar in rewards in order to be sort of a featured store in this situation. So, you know, it doesn't hurt. And if you like Old Navy, well, then you'll be happy it is included. But overall, I think it is a pretty good quarter. And again, no overlap with Discover. So that makes it a little bit better too. I would love to hear what you think about the whole situation in that comment section below. Otherwise, I thank you for watching.